Where we left off, we got our shots labeled so far. Um, what we want to do now is if I hit play, you'll notice when I'm previewing this that we have a pretty rough transition here between one shot and the next. It's just flash. It goes right to the next shot. What we want to do is we want to smooth that out by using some transition tools, and we can have well, we'll go through a number of different ones that we could show here. So right now, with I've been working so far in my editing window, my editing workspace. Right, we're still in editing, um, and what we can do is we can find our effects. This is going to be a special effect that we're going to add to it. We can find our effects down here, and they'll show up. However, one thing that I want to do is I want to switch my workspace just so that we can get to experience some of the other workspaces. I'm going to go now, instead of editing, let's go into our Essentials workspace. So I can click up here in Essentials, or I can pull down my window and change my workspace there. What you'll notice then is that gets rid of our preview window, and it makes our shot here for where we can find the different effects a lot bigger. Now, it's still showing our Project 14 um, window here with all the different media that's in our project. What we want to do, we want to change this window to effects. So you can go here, okay? If at any time you can't remember, you can't find it, it's hidden somewhere, for some reason it's not showing up, what you can do is you can go up to window. If I'll just click on here, and if I go up to window and I click back on effects, what that does is essentially pops it back up on the top in this frame. So our workspaces change the format of our screen around. Our windows tells us what windows on top, and then these windows are also open, but they're underneath and they're not showing at present. What we want to do then is we want to figure out what kind of transition can we use from this shot to the second shot. Okay. So I'm going to open up my video transition folder, and we have a number of different types of transitions. By default, a lot of times what we have is one of two different defaults. Okay. Either dip to black, which was primarily the default that always would open with mine, where let me go and show you how that looks. If we are in between this shot, okay, before it goes, just jumps to the next shot, it's going to fade this one out to black, and then it's going to fade this one into black. So we can do that. We'll find our shot here. I'm going to go back into Essentials. I like using this for adding, sorry about the bell, for adding my effects. So I'm going to go dip to black, and we'll just try this. Okay, so it is going to be under dissolve. So we find dissolve here, and we can just go dip to black. The other thing is, if you can't find that, you can go here, if you remember the name of it, and you go dip. There it is. You type it, you search for it, it shows up, dip to black, or you could go dip to white. Okay, same thing. All I have to do now is I can drag this and apply it onto the transition. So I want to put it on the spot where I'm going from one slide to the next. Okay, you can notice I have three different places that it kind of clicks into by default. On the left here, it will just add the transition to the establishing shot. So basically that will fade to black. Then the next one will just boom, show up. The second one will be, this will fade to black. And then from black, this will fade into my second shot, the long shot. And if I dragged it over to here, my long shot, my establishing shot won't fade. It will just go to black, and then it will fade in. So those are the three different choices. So under most circumstances, we want the transition to kind of bridge the gap in between there. Another reason why I like using my essential pane here is, if you notice, it gives me some options on this transition. So as soon as I brought that transition in, if I clear it out, I'll show you again. There's nothing here, but as soon as I bring this in and I drop it here, now and I click on it, that gives me a whole bunch of options here of how I can edit my transition. Okay, it blows up this timeline, so maybe this isn't so large, but this kind of shows me specifically between my two shots, and I can stretch this out manually like this, or I can go into here and I can change my duration. Usually by default, it's giving us a 1 second, to do the entire transition. Okay, so here's my break point between the two, and it would be a half a second fading out, a half a second fading in. So if you want that to be extended, you want to make your videos look like it's slowing down or build anticipation, feel free to grab that. You can stretch it. You can change the duration here. Okay, I can click here and drag up or down, and that can adjust my shot. Okay, so that's another thing that we have. So we're just going to throw a couple on here. I got dip to black. Let's also go in and just so we see what it looks like. It won't show me the rest because right now I have my search here. I'm going to clear out my search by Xing out of here. And let's do a dissolve. Okay, I can drag this one down onto the next shot. And okay, it didn't like that, but now I should be able to, because now I have a different shot selected here. I can go and drag this down to dissolve. I'm going to have it dissolve across. And if I make that bigger, you can read what it says. So I got a dip to black. I have a cross dissolve. And let's try one more here. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to try maybe a push. Okay, and this is a slide across. So let's go back into effects and or my editing, either one, and we can see how these look if I move my playhead across here, right? So this is going to change my playhead position. Now, if I slowly drag my playhead, you'll notice I can still see both of these. So one is there, one is. This is your 1 minute warning. Ooh, we are just getting all kinds of notes. One is fading out, the next one's fading in. That is my cross dissolve. Okay. Now, how does that compare to the dip to black? Let me zoom back this direction. I'll move my. So this, you don't see the second picture. I go all the way to black, and then you start fading into the second picture. So this is one you'll see a lot. And then we'll look and see what the slide with the push does. Okay. This is taking, and basically the logic behind it is one slide is pushing out the other one. If we look and what was some of the other ones? Let's go back to editing so we can still see the list here. I changed this to effects, and I'm going to go down to my slides. Okay, you're going to have different ones. Center split. Okay, let's clear this out and try a couple other ones real quick. I right click on it, hit clear, and I can try a different one. Center split. Bring this over and drop. And how does that compare? Okay, so you get different options. Feel free to play around with those and find which ones you like. The last thing that I want to cover in this is, what if I know that in a lot of our more professional looking slides or something business related, something for a class that's not so creative, we just might want to use a basic one for all of these. Just a plain dip to black is one of the probably most common, and that's by our normal default. So let me get rid of these. I'm going to clear these out. I want to show you a real fast way to do this. Okay. I go into, whether I'm in editing and I have my effects down here, or I'm in my essentials, and I find my effects here. I'm going to look at here. My two most used ones are dip to black and dissolve. They both start with what letter? They start with the letter D. If I go down here now and I click on the space in between here and I right click on this gap, okay, there is an option called apply default transition. Now, this is dissolve. This is giving me cross dissolve, which hopefully yours gives you dip to black, okay? But if it gets changed, your program will save it under your files that you set your your default transition is cross dissolve. So how do we fix that? Right now, I can go to each one of these and I can right click and I can just go apply default, apply default, apply default. And I don't have to go through and find this list. I don't have to change my workspace. I can just throw it on there and now they're all default. Let me undo those and let me go in, and we want to actually use dip to black for our example at least. So if I click on dip to black and I right click on it, now the only option that pops up is set this as default transition. I can do that for any one of these. The one that I'm using, at least in this project, since dip to black is the one that I've been talking about. Now, if I go here, I can either right click, or if I use my hotkey on the keyboard, I can use Control D, okay? Think of it as Control dip to black. That's one here. Control D as well, Control D. And that will insert all of our new ones. Anything going forward is going to put it in as whichever one we set as our default. So here's dip to black on all three of those. If you notice, it didn't go back and change the one we already had in my project. So I would have to go here and clear that out and just click one more time, Control D. And now everything has the same transition. If I want to watch it real quick, I'm just going to go and grab my editing bar again, and I can see my monitor here. And let's play it across, and we'll play it in real time and see how that looks. So I have a nice quick dip to black. 1 second is fine for this project. Okay, the next one shows up. All of them are labeled so far. Okay, my graphic shows up, my words show up, and my transitions are there. So that is what we're looking for so far. We should have at this moment a number of shots in our project, and we are getting them labeled, and now we have transitions. So that's it for this video. Thanks for joining me, and we will see you in the next one. Have a good day.